So, for better or for worse, everybody that's been watching the WNBA or has been just watching the Fever knows who NaLyssa Smith is. Ironically, she's probably one of the 15 most known players in the WNBA, despite having what has been a very, very off season. A very down season by her measures, and it's looking like it's highly unlikely she'll be on the Fever next year. A lot of people think it's because of all the social media crap. No, it's because of two words, Christy Sides. It is because of Sides Ball. Sides Ball is... I'm going to say Sides Ball is killing NaLyssa Smith. I think NaLyssa Smith is killing NaLyssa Smith, but Christy Sides has not helped. Like, she's been told to go stand on the wing, and it's not even like... There's ways that the Fever can use NaLyssa Smith with Caitlin Clark because she runs the floor quite well. Like, her role should be as a cutter. Like, a lot of the time when we're seeing the ball go through the Aaliyah Boston in the high post with NaLyssa Smith kind of spotting up on the wing for the shot, like, she's a better cutter than she is swinger. Like, it is a better option for, instead of the ball going to her on the three-point line, for her to cut hard to the basket and Kelsey Mitchell to relocate to the wing for the team. But obviously her job was just to stand there. She was told to stand in the three-point line. She can't shoot the three ball. But for the Golden State Valkyries, I think it should be a Smith or bust offseason, because you're not going to get a first option in the expansion draft. That's just not going to happen unless NaLyssa Smith is available. And if NaLyssa Smith is available, she's better than anyone you're going to get with the fifth pick of the draft. So the fifth pick of the draft, realistically, you're going to see Paige Beckers be gone by that stage. You're going to see Kiki Ariafin be gone. And after that, I don't think there's a player that you can have as a number one option. I'm so low on Anissa Morrow because I'm like, well, she is a 6'1" who can't. 6'1" player who shoots 20% from three. So at that spot right there, at 5, you're looking more so than anything at... People are saying Azzi Fudd. Man, Azzi Fudd has not played enough basketball, and she's not a number one option. She is a spot-up, wide-open shooter. She's not as good as Sonia Citron. She just goes to UConn. So at that 5 position, a lot of people are saying Olivia Moss. Olivia Moss isn't a bad shout because she is a good passing point guard, but she's just off an ACL tear. And I don't know how she's going to do this season because Hannah Hidalgo might be better than her, and they both play in the same team. So it's going to be a very tough one for them to get anything really of note at the number 5 pick. They could swing on Malonga, or they could say, you know what, we'll take the risk on Azzi Fudd. Neither of them are going to be the first options. For me, this is one of those drafts where I think if you don't get Paige, there's as much value in a late first round or early second round Raven Johnson or Sivka from Croatia or Sonia Citron or any of these players as there is than anyone not named Paige Beckers in this draft. So if I'm Indiana, obviously the draft lottery happens on, I think, like the 14th of November or something. But what I'm thinking is, if I'm Indiana, is going, you know what? We are willing to give you guys NaLyssa Smith. You're not taking her in the expansion, but we're going to give you NaLyssa Smith an 8 for the 5th pick. That is something that would be of interest, very much of interest to Indiana, because it means that realistically, Indiana do not need NaLyssa Morrow. And while the Fever do need to kind of move up to guarantee they get one of what I think should be their 2 main choices, if they want a player to play right away, it's Sonia Citron. If they want a player long-term, you take Dominique Malonga. A lot of people have them taking Janiyah Barker at 8, I think, but no, you don't need the direct replacement for NaLyssa Smith. Like, what you need is, you need to go modern. You take her, a Sonia Citron, 3-and-D wing, a better Alexi Hull, and you go to Europe and try to convince Janelle Salone to come over. You're sorted. But the problem is that you got to go past the Liberty, and if the Liberty are smart, why would they not draft Leonie Fibic 2.0? Or they not just take another Fibic, so they have Fibic off the bench for Fibic, because they really struggle without Fibic. But if you're Golden State, you need a scorer, and that is what NaLyssa Smith is. NaLyssa Smith averaged 15 a game last season. And like, that's what people don't realize. A lot of people are looking at NaLyssa Smith this year and like, oh, she only scored 10 points a game. She scored 20 points both preseason games. I get it, they're preseason, but in the WNBA, the games definitely meant a little bit more to some of these players. She was expected to be an all-star this year. it was expected that the big three for the Indiana Fever was going to be Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and NaLyssa Smith. Kelsey Mitchell was not meant to be in that big three. A lot of people thought, like coming into this season, that this was going to be the year where Kelsey Mitchell was going to come off the bench. That, like, as good as she was scoring last year, that, you know, the team wasn't really meant for her. Like, she wasn't one of the priorities, that they're going to go young. Like, I saw some articles talking about maybe moving off Kelsey Mitchell, being like, oh, they can't let her walk for nothing, maybe trying to trade her during the season once they got Caitlin Clark. It was meant to be built around NaLyssa Smith. And NaLyssa Smith, Aaliyah Boston, and Caitlin, obviously. When NaLyssa came, it was meant to be built around NaLyssa. When Aaliyah Boston came, it was meant to be built around Aaliyah Boston. And unfortunately, every year they've just gotten a better first/second pick in the draft, with now them getting Caitlin Clark. And for the Golden State Valkyries, you can get a 15-point-a-game scorer who is also going to give you 10 boards a game, who cannot be a glue guy. Like, that's just not what she can. That's just not in her arsenal right now. She is not a good fourth option. She's not a good third option. She's probably not even a great second option. She is the scorer. You give her the ball with her back to the basket and you let her go to work. Unfortunately, with the way the Fever played, having two post players took away from Caitlin Clark's ability to drive. And when you take away her ability to drive, she becomes easier to guard. So they had her playing on the perimeter. But the reality is that she's a good player, just not for Indiana. Maybe there is a coach that can put in some sort of a good offense that has her basically living off cuts, living off off-ball movement, and having the whole team moving and cutting, and Caitlin throwing passes, and heck, even Caitlin cutting sometimes, but she never cuts. Like, then maybe NaLyssa Smith has a spot, but otherwise she's going to be gone from Indiana. And if you're Indiana, this is going to be one of those situations, if you let her go in the expansion draft where she's an all-star next year, and you're like, everyone's like, why did Indiana let her go in the expansion draft? The reality is like, she's a lot better than she looks. And heck, if you even look at, say if you're just looking at Google, if you type in her name, don't need her girlfriend drama, and NaLyssa Smith reacts to rumors she'll be separated from Caitlin Clark. She hasn't. Like, from Marca, the forward recently removed Fever from her social media bio. She did that as soon as the season ended. Like, there are constant NaLyssa Smith, there are just constant NaLyssa Smith stuff. And, like, she's not doing herself any favor, but she also doesn't want to be in Indiana. She doesn't care. Like, she's doing the WNBA equivalent of the Eric Bledsoe tweet, the I don't want to be here tweet. And when he was asked about it, he was like, no, man, I was just sitting in the bar. Was the Barbers that he was in? But he was just talking about how, no, it was nothing to do with that. It was, like, something completely different. So she's obviously gone. And if Golden State want, like, the last thing you want when you're packing the crowd out is to either... You can lose a lot of games, but you've got to have a either young fun team or a young star that the team are like, you know what, we can build around. NaLyssa Smith is going to be a young player. She's going to probably be an all-star. And for an expansion franchise, to have an all-star in their first year is huge. And you're not getting one in the draft. So if I'm Indiana, you do not give her up for nothing. You can get something for her. Whether it's a late first-round pick, she has shown enough. She's shown enough that, like, NaLyssa Smith for... Obviously, you can't get, like, the 10th pick. Heck, you know what? Does Chicago want her? There could be some weird scenario where Connecticut try to run it back, choose Bree Jones over Dejanay Carrington, because maybe they don't want to put up the Dejanay Carrington crap. Chicago get rid of Kennedy, pay Dejanay the max, and then it ends up being a case where it's like, we will give you the 10th pick in the draft for NaLyssa Smith, and we're going to go out with a lineup of guard, Dejanay, Liz, Angel, Cardoso. We're going to pretend the three-point line does not exist under any circumstances. The three-point line does not exist. And then we're going to just get a pass for his point guard. Or just a spot-up three-point shooting point guard or something. Because if Kurt Miller's there, Kennedy Carter's not going to be. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about this entire situation. Do you guys think NaLyssa Smith is going to be a Valkyrie? If I am the Golden State Valkyries, that's probably my number one choice, is to get NaLyssa Smith. Like, that would be the first thing I would do. That would be my number one priority, because in the expansion draft, I might do a video on this later when I come home from the game, but, like, you're not really going to get anything too wild in the actual draft of the expansion draft. Like, this draft doesn't have like a, other than Paige, doesn't have a Caitlin, doesn't have a Cardoso, doesn't have a Cameron Brink, heck, might not even have an Angel Reese. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.